Hey, family, there are some things that we will never forget, especially those things that people have done for us. And I'm sure that you can think of many things right now, whether they were good or bad. And they don't have to necessarily define the person who did it, but they surely describes the act and consequently the way that they made us feel. You see, because there are some good people out there who do bad things, and then there are some bad people out there who do good things, my friends. You see, but nevertheless, as we reflect on Father's Day this weekend, I can still remember something that my father did that I would never forget. You see, many years ago when I was a child, my mother took me to her home country, St. Lucia, to spend summer holidays with my older siblings who were living there at the time. And while we were there, a hurricane by the name of Alan came through the region and was heading towards Barbados. You see, but Hurricane Alan veered north of Barbados and was heading straight for St. Lucia and Martinique, according to the forecasters. Needless to say, brethren, you see, that night was the most horrifying experience I have ever experienced by any hurricane or by anything, as a matter of fact. And though it didn't have a direct impact on the island, the northern part of the island where we were staying was impacted greatly. I saw galvanized from roofs tops flying through the air like migrating birds, and trees bowing and prostrating themselves as if though they seemed to be worshipping in the presence of Almighty God, broken and contrite, my friends. And with every strong gust of wind, the roof of our home would lift up from the rim beam and set itself back down. And each time a sheet or two of galvanized would take flight and join the migrating flock. Needless to say, Mommy and all of us were frightened and wanted to make a 50-meter dash to our neighbor's house for shelter because we thought surely this roof was going to blow off at any moment. But every time Mommy would open the door so that the five of us can rush through the dark, treacherous wind, a strong wind would blow and force the door shut. This happened for several hours, my friends. You see, and finally, we decided against it. You see, but we survived the night, and to our surprise, the majority of the roof as well. What a time that was. So, after the hurricane had passed and morning broke, we looked out, and to our amazement, we saw a massive mango tree that had marked the boundary between our property and our neighbors. It had fallen directly across the path that we were planning to take that night. Ah, boy. And Mommy then said, "Now I understand why we weren't able to leave the house last night. Because it was the Lord who was preventing us from leaving the house. He was the one who was keeping us safe in the midst of this storm." And so then she thanked the Lord for keeping us and keeping us safe. And it's something that I reflected on even now as a child. You see, my friends, but the island was in a mess. The light was off. The water was off. Communications were shut down. I mean, of course, there were no mobile phones back then, so there was no WhatsApp, and there was no IG, there was no Facebook, there was no texting. When you were cut off, you were completely cut off. And so the following day, as people were trying to get their life back together and cleaning up pieces of their lives, I heard a loud scream from my mother. A scream, a gasp of surprise and joy in her voice. It was Daddy, walking up the hill with his carry-on luggage in one hand and a big box of food items in the other hand for us. And when I saw him, I was so happy and excited to see him that I ran and embraced him. On reflection, I felt as if though weeping had endured throughout the night, but joy came in the morning. Daddy brought joy. And and would you believe that my father's surname is Allen? What's weird contradiction? I could not believe that Daddy came all the way through a storm to find us. Could you imagine what he was going through, knowing that what we were experiencing and he wasn't there to save us and to keep us safe? My man caught a plane, brothers. The very next day I came to find his woman and child here. I will never forget that as long as I live. You see, a real man, a real father will do whatever it takes to rescue his woman and his children. You see, I learned that from my old man. And I just want to say to you, Daddy, thank you. And even though you're dead and gone, the good that you have done will forever live on. Forever. I will never forget that. For real. So fellas, let us do right by our children. Let us love them with all of our hearts and leave countless memories of love that they will never forget as long as they live, even when we are dead and gone. Remember that. Leave memories that they would never forget, my fellas, friends. So happy Father's Day to you guys. This is Jakes from John J Ministries. See you next week. God bless you.